and this is where I will look at it as a computer simulation, just because of my religious background and everything.
Right.
Is that it comes from a very spiritual sort of understanding.
Yeah.
That and for me, I come from a Christian background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So our understanding is that this world is very temporary, right? And that in fact maybe this world is kind of like a simulation.
Right.
That this is not the real. This is not the real life. This is not the real ending. We have something bigger to do.
Right.
Something like heaven to go into.
Right.
And to explain that, a lot of people have used analogies where it's like, if you're a newborn baby in a mother's womb, this is your world. You cannot imagine what it is outside the womb.
Right.
Similar to that, right? So this world is the womb that we are in. We're training ourselves here, and then eventually reunite with God in heaven. Right. So when you look at it as a computer simulation, and if you're thinking about the Matrix,
right,
and a lot of my friends who are Christians, when they watch the Matrix, they're like, you know what, that speaks to us in a very different level.
Okay.
Because it's like this world that we live in is not real.
Okay.
It's not, it's a fallen
That's
world.
interesting.
It's a broken world. It's a world that goes against what it is to be a man fully alive.
Right.
And so, if you think of it in that way, I would absolutely agree. Just because if you look at the theory behind it, it's scary how it makes sense.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the problem.
And so when I look at it, I'm like, but then if you think of it in a spiritual level, it makes perfect sense. It's like, okay, if the life that we lead today is in preparation for the afterlife, right, with God, then whatever we're doing here is just to prepare us for there. So a simulation within this, in order to prepare us for the real world, or the real kind of existence.
Right.
And when I talk about this, I'm not talking about meta spiritual. I'm actually talking very, very from the Christian, from the tenets of Christianity. Yeah. Where we have God created humans. Right. Humans are living in a broken world because they sin. Right. So Jesus comes to save us. Show us the way of salvation, and then we achieve salvation and move on, right? That is kind of like it. Another example I could give it to you. I don't know if this will make sense. I don't know if it's good for your audience at all. It's like, okay, so there was this house, and a bird flew in. Right? And there were two humans in there trying to shoot a bird out. Yeah. Get out of here, bird, get out. And they tried to do, with a broomstick. Right. But the bird, instead of flying out the open window, just flies around. Yeah. So what they try to do is with the net, right? But then, of course, but then, they thought, well, if we were a bird, and we could come in and go, hey, bird, the exit's out that way. The bird would probably go back and, oh, thank you, and then fly off together, right? So that's kind of like the analogy they gave with trying to understand how it is. Right. So that's the analogy of how Jesus came to become human in order to tell us how it is. Right. Because then you can't. If you're God Almighty and you're like this big thing, there's no way you can come down and say, "Hey, Sasha, you gotta follow the 10 Commandments and do it this way, right?" Unless you came down as human and were able to show it to us. Right. So like that sort of thing. Sometimes you wish that this was a simulation, because especially if you live a crappy life in this world, I would love to be be a simulation.
But I mean that's what lots of religions are often like saying, right? So even if you have a crappy life right now, maybe it will get better afterwards.
Sure.
So, but even like I used to be Christian. I by default more or less, but not really practicing. So from a non-religious perspective, like simply from like a computer freak nerd perspective, it also speaks to me, makes sense.
It's scary how it makes sense.
How it makes sense, exactly. So just like we played SimCity, someone is playing with us right now. The question is like, where does it stop? Is the person or the entity who's playing with us, is it being played with too? Is it also a simulation, or is that the end?
No, and the worst part about this theory is we will never know.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Like, we can be in a computer simulation, but we will never know if we really are in a computer simulation. Like that's the scary thing.
Someone unplugs us now.
That's it, like the Matrix. It shows us, hey, you wanted to see the real world. This is the real world, Neo.
Right.
You know, and you go,
take the red pill.
wow, I was in a simulation after all.
Right.
So,
But how creepy is it to show us in a simulation movies about computer simulations? Man, that's like
man,
messed
that's
up.
deep. You just went deep
And
there,
I didn't even smoke anything.
That's too deep for like a daytime talk show thing.
Right? Yeah.
Not like a vlog. This is gonna have all your
hashtag deep. Yeah. No, but
all your philosophers watching this would be like, well, Sasha, what about this other way? What
I
about
hope
that?
so. I mean, sometimes it's just fun to think about it because sometimes it's also frustrating to think about it because you're like, I cannot achieve like a higher level than like just my human shell.
But okay, so
I
even
can
though
already see like the Buddhist comments coming in like,
yeah,
hey,
right.
you can.
Aha, and suffering, Sasha. Like break the cycle of suffering.
Exactly.
No, but then so the thing about wait, where was I going with this? With the simulation itself, sometimes, like although the theory is very, like there's not a lot that you can go. Well, why not? Like it's very kind of, it's scary how real it can be.
Right.
But at the same time, I also think that life is a bit more than simulation.
Yeah.
As in there's certain things that cannot be only written in like programming or any logical sense. There are things that break logic. And with a simulation, the idea is that logic rules your
True.
simulation.
However, in computer programming, you'll learn that it
Goes in the machine.
Oh yeah, that goes to the machine. Yes,
Asimov.
Asimov, right? Or chaos theory or something. I mean,
Chaos theory, sure. Well, what I'm saying is that yes, and that could apply to it, absolutely.
Exactly.
But then there's certain things that defies logic.
right.
There's certain things that, you can only see it, you can only understand it, and then you can try to have a logical explanation for it. But sometimes when it's there, it's there. Like, for example, if you do like art,